Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you for clicking on this video. I know I've put this review off for a while, but I just wanted to play the game and get my own opinions. With that said, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon and hating this game. This is my honest opinion. And if you haven't played 1, 2, or 3, I would highly recommend you check those out. But let's talk about Mass Effect Andromeda. Mass Effect Andromeda is an action RPG developed by BioWare Montreal. It starts off in the Milky Way Galaxy between Mass Effect 2 and 3 and ends up in the neighboring galaxy Andromeda, where humans and most of the original species alike are planning to populate new planets hoping for a fresh start. As part of the movement, the Andromeda Initiative, you choose the role of either Scott or Sara Ryder, an inexperienced military recruit who joins the initiative and wakes up in Andromeda 600 years later. And after arrival, you take on the role as Pathfinder, and it becomes your job to find habitable homeworlds, but in doing so you uncover an ancient civilization of advanced machines and encounter an alien race that is set on galactic domination. Okay, so let's start off with what I think Andromeda gets right. First of all, the best thing about it is the combat, aside from its somewhat sticky cover system. In combat alone, I felt like I was back in Mass Effect 2 or 3, and the jetpack is an awesome add-on. It's fun, I mean, especially if you're biotic, but that's just me. You might play as a different class and find it just as enjoyable. And secondly, when it comes to visuals like the planets and the galaxy itself, and even the textures of the different types of armor, they're eye candy. They really put some effort in making the surrounding world look beautiful. And when it comes to the planets, there's a lot more on the surface to do, unlike Mass Effect 1. Planet exploration went a bit deeper this time around, and for those of you hoping for a better Mako, the Nomad handles so much better. Next is weapon, armor, and tool crafting. Throughout Mass Effect Andromeda, you gather research data, elements, and minerals that help you learn about the new galaxy you're in. It also gives you the opportunity to unlock blueprints for various different things like armor, weapons, and tools such as the Omni Blade or bionic enhancements, and of course they all have different stats and trade-offs. From there on, you just upgrade your preferred loadout with even better versions. Lastly is the multiplayer. If you played Mass Effect 3, it's pretty much the same thing with a new look. And if you're not familiar, it's basically a horde mode. You queue up with a 4-player squad, work together, and fight off waves of enemies until you extract, racking up points to unlock upgrade packs. You can then use those upgrades to take on more difficult enemies in silver or gold tier modes. And that's it. So let's talk about what I didn't like. Well, first we'll start off with character customization. It's the very first thing you do, and it pretty much foreshadows the rest of the game. I mean, there's no depth. Default heads that you can only make minor adjustments to, and they all look like they got slammed by an ugly truck. I wanted to have a connection with my character, and I couldn't have that. Next, we'll move on to the story. Aside from its lore, although there were a couple moments where I was genuinely shocked, Mass Effect Andromeda's story is generic. It's just boring, and half the time I didn't even know what was going on, and I couldn't relate to any of the new squad mates. None of them are interesting. There's no Garrus Vakarian or Liara T'Soni in this game, and it's so disappointing. Now, I'm sure you've all seen and heard the facial animations and lip syncing are terrible. Also, dialogue is poorly written and acted, and in awkwardly directed cutscenes with the characters, you have other characters popping in and out of frame or floating off into the sky. It didn't help that its overall lighthearted tone throughout made it even worse. I acted like the developers and just didn't take it seriously. Now, if you're someone who forgets about the story and just goes off in a different direction with side quests, well, in my opinion, you won't find much excitement there either. A lot of the tasks, as they're called, are mediocre filler, mostly stretched out fetch missions across multiple planets or on one planet alone, and then adding in boring galaxy map navigation, both frustrating and hilarious glitches, sound bugs, and serious frame drops. After a while, I just stopped doing them. Now, planet exploration, as I mentioned, goes deeper when you actually get the chance to land on a planet. That's another thing worth mentioning. All these planets, and you can only land on 5 in the whole galaxy. And if you can't land, you just use a scanner and probe minerals like in Mass Effect 2. But when you finally touch down on the handful of planets, there's a lot more to see this time around. It's not all good though. First of all, the size of the areas you can explore could have been a lot bigger in my opinion. And for what they lack in size, they don't make up in excitement. Despite the graphics, the planets are barren and boring aside from a few, but I was hoping for some more serious creativity. All the alien wildlife you encounter are just given different colors and copy and pasted across all planets. There's no diversity, and while you're driving around the Nomad, you'll see them in the distance and they look like pixelated 2D objects and they belong in an old school Mario game. Most of the time, I felt like I was a part of beta testing. And don't get me started on the alien Sudoku puzzles, but who knows, that might be something you're into. Anyway, I could go on, but I'm sure that you all get the point. But aside from my opinion, there are plenty of people out there that like the game, so you might not find it all that bad. Overall, regardless of what I said, Mass Effect Andromeda is okay. It still has a Mass Effect feel. I'm just disappointed because the original 3 games were so good and meant so much to me and many others as well. They even changed the gaming world in whole. I wanted to wear this game out with multiple playthroughs, but I just didn't find any reason to go back, and I could have dealt with everything wrong if the game was actually worth playing. Now, sometimes I like to think that they tried their best in development, but it really doesn't look like it. I mean, in my honest opinion, Mass Effect Andromeda by far is the worst out of the 4. So, have you played the game? What do you think? And if you haven't, are you going to try it out? Let me know in the comments section below. I'm really curious to hear everyone else's thoughts. Let me know if I missed anything you might want me to cover. Even more, I'm hoping that you all hit that like button so maybe the developers will see my views and improve on their next game. And if you could, also subscribe to make sure you see my thoughts on upcoming titles that you might have your eye on. So I hope this review helped you out even in the slightest, and as always, thank you guys. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one.